So, hi, hi everyone. It's Nina Collins from The Wolfer, and I'm here today with Rachel Hughes. Rachel runs a blog called the Meno Memos, and she is now correct me, Rachel, you're a certified
nutritional consultant,
nutritional
a CNC,
consultant.
Which means I'm not a doctor and I'm not a specialist, but I can absorb a lot of information, relay it back to you, and be a middleman, sort of help you achieve goals.
So similar to a health coach.
Yeah, very similar.
And you got a certificate, I guess, obviously it's a certified nutritional consultant.
So yeah, I have a license, and which I got from a school out in California, and I actually, believe it or not, I would say that most of my education has come from working with a holistic physician, a functional medicine practitioner for many years, who treated, along with in his chiropractic practice, treated a lot of chronic pain patients, which I got to work with directly one-on-one, both treating them with a device that he had in office to help treat neuropathic pain. And also then that sort of segued into nutritional consulting, because what I discovered, or I didn't discover it, everybody knows this, but what I realized in spending time with these patients is that, like all of us, but particularly acutely, these people were suffering with inflammation, and it was driving their pain. So my segue into things is usually through food, because that's just my thing, and I'm interested in it. I'm interested in how the body uses food to nourish itself and heal itself. And I thought that we should come up with some sort of anti-inflammatory nutritional protocol that we could hand off to patients who came in the door for treatment, so that whether they stuck with the treatment or not, they could hopefully feel like they had some ability to now kind of springboard into their own health.
Yeah, to control. So I have a question about inflammation. Everyone talks about inflammation as if like everyone has it and it's out of control. Yeah. But generally when I get my blood taken and the inflammation markers come back and they're low, does that mean I have no inflammation?
No, so everyone has a degree of inflammation. Some people will have more. So someone suffering with acute pain, all inflammation is essentially is information, right? So if you put your hand to a burner and you quickly pull back and you burn yourself, and your body immediately wants to heal. So it sends all kinds of signals to that point of pain, and it becomes inflamed, and it lets everybody else know in the body that this was an injury, inflammation is happening, it's meant to heal you, and it's meant to let you know that there's been an injury, and then it's supposed to calm down as you heal. What happens with people who have chronic inflammation is that information that the body's gotten about an injury won't quiet down. It won't calm down, it won't go away, and the body becomes sick. So with people like myself, for example, I have rheumatoid arthritis. And so this was interesting too. I found out after my diagnosis that I was genetically predisposed to get it. I had certain markers that were high that determined the likelihood that I would get it. But it was stress that actually tripped it off. I could go on medication for it, but what I have decided to do for myself and my body is to approach it from approach my levels of inflammation. So inflammation it came out, it manifested in this condition called rheumatoid arthritis. It was triggered by stress. And so what I know to do is to manage my stress levels, manage my my body's sort of intake of inflammation. So I know that if I eat a lot of sugar and I eat a lot of poor quality fats and I eat a lot of wheat and I eat a lot of things that do further damage to my gut, my level of inflammation is going to increase. I'm going to start having pain and so on and so forth. If that continues to run amok, you do reach a point where, you know, medication becomes something you need to take a look at, if not get on. And I just want to say this too, for those people out there who may be listening, who do have, you know, an autoimmune condition or any other something sort of lurking around, and they're being told to go on medication, you must speak with your doctor, really, you know,
right. Obviously, we're not here providing medical advice. Right?
Not at all, not at all. And what works for one doesn't necessarily work for another. And I'm also not someone who thinks that medication is a bad thing. I think if
absolutely.
you need help, get the help, whatever it is. So
we're here to have a conversation with you just about your perspective a little bit on nutrition and supplements, and the inflammation stuff is really interesting. And obviously neither one of us is a doctor. But just so I can be clear, lastly about inflammation, how do you know, besides pain, that you have high inflammation? Is it that inflammation marker that you get, that test?
Yeah, the marker will definitely tell you, but typically being overweight, is a good indicator. Migraine headaches, gastrointestinal issues, pain is a big one. And it can be sort of achy, dull muscular pain, or it could be joint pain. Joint pain is a really big one. But there are also,
when your body's out of whack, it's inflammation.
You must you must consider inflammation when you are addressing an imbalance.
Got it.
Your body wants to find balance. It wants to be even keeled. It wants to grow and glow and flourish, and you know, it wants to be a picture of health. And if that picture, but it's delicate, right? So if that picture of health appears wonky in some way, you can't ignore inflammation. All things that we, you know, not to pick on medication again, but it is really true. Medication is often a Band-Aid for a lot of things that addressing inflammation can actually temper.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That makes sense. Okay.
All right. So inflammation can be addressed often with diet. And as you said, I mean, it always seems to me that all these kind of nutrition conversations and diet conversations kind of come down to the same thing, right? It's like, drink more water, don't eat sugar, don't eat wheat, eat more vegetables, eat lean protein, not too much fruit. Be careful with dairy, right? Some people go both ways on dairy, but generally people say stay away from dairy.
You're absolutely right. And I find that even in thinking about blog posts or Instagram posts, sort of how to make the same information interesting, because it really is the same stuff. And the best way to approach your health is to consider each one of those things. And there are people out there. There's one woman who comes to mind in particular. She's unbelievably clean. Like, she has taken her vessel, her body, and I love her. Her name's Natalia Rose, and she's a nutritionist, and I followed her for a long time, and she's a raw foodist. And I learned about raw food eating from her, and I ate that way for a year. And for the first 6 months, I was like radiating. I felt like I had eaten the sun, and I was just glowing around town. And then the second 6 months, my hair started falling out. Ooh. I started gaining a tremendous amount of weight. I'm not sure what was happening.
Wow.
I decided to stop that. She would be able to speak to that, I'm sure. But she lives a very clean lifestyle. So, she's all raw. She's all vegetables. I don't even know if she eats fruit anymore. I don't think she eats anything cooked anymore. And she's able to sort of like, function optimally. And that's her thing.
Yeah. Okay. Good for
That's
her.
the thing. But for most people, for most of us mere mortals, we just sort of do the best we can. And what I always encourage people to do, and I think this comes up a lot in perimenopause and menopause specifically, is really check in with yourself, because your body will tell you. Your mind will tell you if you are feeling particularly stressed, if you are unhappy, if you are anxious, if you're angry, if you're irritable. There are things to look at, certainly going on outside your life, but absolutely you have to look at what's going on inside. And our body's really getting just so much information from what we eat. So if we're eating things that really aren't providing nutrients, we are going to suffer in one way or another.
All right, so this is all great. I really appreciate it. So let's turn the conversation a little bit to supplements, because supplements are tricky. And because you come from the perspective of functional medicine, one of the things I think is hard in menopause and perimenopause particularly, right, is our hormones are all over the place. Things are constantly shifting. So when there's so much conflicting information all the time about HRT, about hormone replacement therapy, and what to take and what kind. And I just saw a post yesterday in our community. A woman was saying that her doctor won't let her take progesterone every day. Well, I take progesterone every day. Like it's very confusing, right? And I often think every woman should just get her blood tested like every month, so she knows exactly what's going on, where her hormones are. And this also speaks to the supplement issue, because I've gotten into trouble a couple times with supplements. Like I started taking magnesium a couple years ago, and I really love magnesium. It's definitely, I think, one of my favorite supplements. It helps, it helps the body in a million ways. It helps keep you regular in terms of bowel movements. It helps sleep. But I was taking for a while too much of it, and the wrong kind, and it actually ended up slowing down my heart. Like I actually started feeling like heaviness in my chest, and I had to go to a cardiologist. And so I think often people take these things and they're not really being monitored well enough about their levels. I know you can have I know my gynecologist doesn't particularly, she's not particularly thinking about my potassium level. And I was taking a DIM supplement that a medicine person told me to take, and my potassium was way too high. So I worry a little bit about the kind of willy-nilly-ness of people taking all sorts of stuff. So that's just my perspective.
No, I agree. And it brings me back to what I just said, which is about getting very in tune and very sensitive to how you are doing and sort of what your baseline is. And I think for women in perimenopause and menopause, it's not just the hormonal fluctuation that makes this a little difficult. I think it's also that we may not have been paying that much attention to our bodies prior to this season of life. Not that we didn't know ourselves or know, I'm PMSing or whatever, stuff like that. But for the most part, we've taken our bodies for granted. Like you either feel well or you don't feel well. But when you get into perimenopause and you start experiencing all kinds of symptoms and whatever else is going on, it's suddenly, you're kind of hit in the face with, what do I do? And you're absolutely right about the supplements. I have had many a wonky experience with either taking too little or taking too much, or you really self-medicate, and you do have to acknowledge that it is it's the beginnings of a medicine, right? Whatever the supplement is, it's treating you. And when I speak about someone like Natalia Rose, who's so clean, anything she's going to ingest is going to probably immediately impact her. Whereas for the rest of us, it may take a little bit longer, but there will be a result. And so
result, right? People think because they're over the counter and you can just pick them up. I think people do have to just be very careful, because I've just recently, particularly in the last few years, had some weird blood test results, and I'm not taking that many supplements, and so I've realized like I'm really being affected by what I take. And so so that's just a kind of a warning for everyone to think
we'll get
about
into something. Yes,
getting regular blood tests and having a good primary care doctor, or even I'm actually going to see an endocrinologist at the beginning of January, just to kind of get a reassessment of like the hormones I'm taking and the supplements I'm taking.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really important. I'm a big fan of functional medicine, but I think that that's a risk when people kind of start seeing a lot of different doctors who aren't talking to each other.
Absolutely.
So that all said, let's talk about what we think the kind of basic best supplements are for most people, or just the ones that you particularly love. We can compare notes on what we take.
Sure. So I have recently re-upped a B complex vitamin. I had stopped with B for a while because honestly, I was feeling pretty good and alert and kind of just, felt like I'm good, which also happens a lot when you're taking supplements, right?
Yes.
But I just felt like I needed a little more help with not just fighting the fatigue that I was feeling, which has gotten worse when I'm PMSing now. So I'm still getting a period, but the gap. What's that?
How old are you?
I'll be 51.
Okay, we're the same.
So the gaps are expanding in between my periods, but my PMS is right on time. But it's louder. So a B complex helps me a lot. I get extremely fatigued in PMS, and a B has been really helpful. And I think a lot of people are probably in need of a B, particularly perimenopausal and menopausal women.
Yeah, that's come up in our community. In fact, I learned a couple of years ago about women getting B12 shots. Like there's some clinic.
Yes,
in Soho.
I've never done that.
I remember a few women in the community saying they're super great. And come to think of it, actually, I did it once when I was in LA. Like I went to.
How was that?
I didn't notice a difference, honestly. Oh. And recently I just got blood work done, and it said that all my B levels are completely fine. So I'm not taking a B supplement, but
the other thing, I don't know if I said this already, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but ahead of all the supplement taking, I would just say to someone, if you have questions, do find someone who knows a lot about food who can help you, because the best way to get anything is through food. The supplement is just really there to sort of like lend an extra hand if it's needed. It's not necessarily something you need to take for the rest of your life. Like I just said, I was good with the B for a while, and now I feel like I'm in need again, but I had a long stretch without it and was doing just fine. But the food should be your primary source. It's what your body wants. Really, it wants to ingest it, digest it, send all the nutrients where they need to be, and then expel it. Okay. So that's one thing. The other thing, sorry, go ahead, Nina.
I was going to ask you, what about vitamin D? Since
I was just going to say, that's exactly, D is really important, and this is something I actually wrote an extra note about. A D3 in particular right now, during the fall, winter months, but also with this virus literally in the air around us, D3 is great. Also though, and I think, this is again, like a fall, winter months sort of protocol. There's a supplement, it's not really a supplement, it's oil of oregano. So I can show you the bottle or text you the bottle. It's antiviral, antibacterial, antimicrobial. It's like a powerhouse supplement.
When my kids were little and there was lice in the school, I used to put oregano oil in their hair because apparently it helps.
Kills everything. It's really fantastic. So that would be something I would add in along with your vitamin D.
Do people ingest it? You ingest pills, oil of oregano? All right, she's running off to get some. But I also,
it's a boil. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. What's it called? So it's just.
It's called. It's North American Urban Spice, and it's called Oreganol. Oreganol. It's phenomenal. You can get it on Amazon. I like to get it direct from the company. It's not cheap. It's like that was maybe like, I don't know, $40 or something like that. But it lasts a long time. Do not put a dropper full in your mouth. It's like 3 drops. You can put it under the tongue. That's pretty strong. I usually put it in like 4 ounces of water and just chuck it.
And you think of it as a kind of anti-cold winter treatment?
I am telling you, my husband, kid, like everybody has been on this thing because of me and are all addicted to it. Some people take it, you know, acutely, meaning you've been around somebody who's sick and you haven't taken it for a while and you get home and you just, you know, take your hit. And others, like myself, I do take it daily. This kind you can take daily. Others are, the protocol might be 3 weeks on and then like about a month off and then 3 weeks on daily again, a month off.
So just a reminder to everyone listening, just we don't want to overdo on anything, but that sounds like a really good tip. I want to go back and ask you about the vitamin D for a second.
Yes.
Vitamin D is something women our age seem to always be low on. It seems really, really common. I'm not sure why with menopause, everyone's D goes down.
Yeah.
But in terms of getting your vitamins from food, I don't know, vitamin D is in like whole milk, right?
So D is it's also in fish, like salmon, sardines, red meat, mushrooms, egg yolks. If you're okay eating egg yolks, eat the whole egg. Vitamin D is, it's critical. It's helpful for mood balancing. It's helpful for mental clarity. It was one of the supplements I was recommended to take for brain fog. And to be honest, and this happens too, you know, you might start taking something and you're feeling pretty okay, but you're still suffering with it. And I often think, well, how much worse would this be if I wasn't taking the D?
Yeah, I eat all those things you just mentioned except red meat, and my D is still low when I get blood tests done. So I take 1,000 milligrams a day. Good. I know some people kind of super up it, like they'll take like 5,000.
Some people will super up it. A D that's 5,000 and above, you typically want to take when you're not feeling so great. Or maybe you're getting on a plane. You just want to upregulate your immune system. That's what you're doing when you take such a high dose. It's not something you want to take long term. There's a 50,000 vitamin D supplement out there that you can take. I don't quote me on this, but I want to say like about a week, maybe 2 weeks. That's if you're really not feeling well and your immune system just needs that much of a kickstart.
And people are saying with COVID around, everyone should be taking vitamin D, right?
Everyone should be taking a vitamin D. And that's exactly why, because it's upregulating your immune system. And along with that, which is why I suggested the oreganol, you'd want to consider with the COVID conversation in the mix, a zinc and a vitamin C.
Yeah. Okay. And do you take magnesium?
I do take magnesium.
And which do you take? Because magnesium.
Sorry?
Magnesium, there are a whole bunch of kinds of magnesium, right? Isn't it magnesium glycinate is the one we're
So I take glycinate. I used to suffer with chronic headaches. Some would become migraines, like I mentioned. The magnesium glycinate was terribly helpful. I continue to take it because I find that it helps for me with my RA symptoms. So it keeps those aches and pains largely at bay. Nice. I take about, I'm trying to think, I forget what my pills are, maybe about 300 milligrams a day, split up. And the only one, I would just sort of alert people to magnesium citrate, which is the one that addresses constipation. It's a fantastic supplement, but just be careful about which one you're getting. Because the citrate, there's a supplement actually that, it's like it basically functions like a laxative, but it's not pushed that way. But it your bowels that much. And it is magnesium citrate based.
Interesting.
So that's not what you want. You want glycinate.
Does magnesium glycinate also help with your bowels?
It can, but it's more of an overall relax you kind of a thing.
Got it.
So it's not, citrate is going to sort of like do a job, and it's going to focus solely on your bowels.
Okay.
Glycinate is really sort of like an overall, relax the mood, relax the muscles, which are obviously going to include the colon. But it shouldn't, if you're taking glycinate and you're having to go to the bathroom a lot, you might be taking too much. It shouldn't have that effect.
That's my understanding, is if you're going to the bathroom a lot, you might be taking too much.
Yeah.
Right, but that's helpful to know the distinction. I'm now just taking glycinate, but I really, I feel great on it. I really feel like it helps.
Do you know what you were taking when your heart was?
I don't remember, actually. This was like a year ago, but I was taking a lot, too much.
Yeah.
I was taking like 800 milligrams.
Oh yeah, that's a lot.
Now I've been on 250 of glycinate, but my last blood test results, sorry, I keep referring to them, but I've had my blood taken twice in the last few months.
Yeah.
Said that my magnesium was still a little low. So now I'm taking 500.
Okay.
All right. So what are your other essentials?
I have to refer to my notes. What's been really good, which I'd never taken before this year, was evening primrose. So many women, what's that? Are you?
No, I'm not opposed to it, but it reminds me of a joke I always tell is when I was first perimenopausal, I looked up all the things to take, and I went to the health food store, and I swear I spent like $600. Primrose was one of those things. And then I went to a menopause gynecological specialist who told me that all those supplements were complete bullshit and I should just throw them away.
Oh no, really?
He totally shat on evening primrose, but tell us what it does for you.
Here's what I found when I added it. Now, I've never taken it before this year, probably actually maybe only within the last 6 to 8 months. Mm-hmm. I had, over the last year and a half, the worst hormonal acne. I have never experienced acne like this. Ugh. And I was out of my mind. It was like cystic and gross, and it was so awful. I know, it was so awful. It was so painful. So I did some research, and evening primrose came up, and I added it, and my skin cleared up. Now, one might say, well, you just sort of got over that part of your perimenopausal journey. I don't know, but I would be curious to speak with some women who have said it has helped with hot flashes.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing that's so tricky about all this is like you don't really know. Like I also had that horrible kind of chin acne at the beginning of perimenopause. I don't have it anymore. Mm-hmm. Had I taken evening primrose then, would it have helped? Who knows? Like, who knows? But yeah, some people say evening primrose really helps with hot flashes.
Yeah.
My it didn't do anything.
Yeah. So another one I would talk about, which again, you made me think of when you said your doctor said, oh, throw all that shit out, is collagen, because I know it's super trendy. Yeah. And some people are of it's total BS. And other people are all
I'm kind of buying the collagen argument. I don't know why, but I take 3 biotin collagen gummies a day because my hair is looking really good right now. And
your hair looks fabulous.
Right? It's looking good. And it was not looking good early in perimenopause. I was having hair loss and it wasn't
shiny. That's what's happening to me.
Looking really shitty. And now it's looking
good. The biotin might be doing it for your hair.
Might be the biotin. And I feel like the argument for collagen just sounds kind of reasonable. It could be.
I again, like everything else, I think, try it if you want and see what happens. I've been taking it for a long time. I started taking it because I wanted to address my gut issues. Mm-hmm. So I just felt like my gut needed healing. Mm-hmm. And so you probably are familiar with this term leaky gut. Yep. So I was sure I had leaky gut. And collagen, was one of those things that I knew could help heal it. It has an amino acid in it called glutamine, which helps sort of close those fissures. So for anyone who may not know, leaky, so your colon is basically like encapsulated with sort of imagine like a nylon stocking. So it has little teeny tiny holes in it.
Like a sausage casing.
Yeah, but it can become porous. And the worse you eat, so if you're eating a lot of refined sugar or drinking a lot of alcohol or, you know, poor quality oils and things like that, it disrupts the integrity of that nice tight link. And you start to get gaps in the colon. And so food, which should normally just sort of swoosh by through your colon, can actually now escape through these fissures, these spaces. Yeah, I know, it's so gross. And it goes direct into your bloodstream. And this is important to know too, that
Wait, I'm sorry, but so then you have poop in your bloodstream?
Well, you have like food, you have waste, you have food waste, not poop, but you have like what you've consumed.
Okay.
But right, so it's traveling through your colon on the way to becoming waste.
Yeah.
But when it enters the bloodstream, actually, this is really important. When it enters the bloodstream, your body, your blood doesn't know what to do with it. It's not supposed to be there. So if it's real food, you know, if it's like fruits and vegetables, it'll figure it out and it'll extract what nutrients it can and send them direct to where it wants to be. But if it's not, if it's like Twizzlers, it doesn't recognize any of that as real food. So it wants to fight it, and therefore inflammation increases. Also, and this is really important to know, when your body doesn't know what to do with something, it doesn't recognize something as real food, it will often send it to your fat cells, because it sort of figures like, well, I don't know what that is. It has no nutritional value. It has no vitamins, no minerals, but Rachel may want that later. She may need that later when there's a famine. Yeah, so let me just tuck that onto her bottom and she can call on that later, and she'll be glad I held on to that for you, you know, that this kind of thing. So this is another reason why, you know, when you're thinking about what you're consuming, when people say whole foods and real foods and clean foods, that's another sort of thing to just have in your back pocket. Why do I want to be eating this and not that, you know?
Right,
but anyway, so collagen, I forgot what the hell I was saying. Sorry, I went off
We're
track.
taking all the things collagen does, but you were saying you were taking it to address, like, I take it thinking it's going to help my skin look better.
Yes, so that's what it does. So I started taking it to heal my gut. The benefit add was it essentially, it's like scaffolding, right? So it helps the bones, it helps all parts of your body sort of remain youthful and healthy and pliable, which is what you want. You want to be more like silly putty than you want to be rigid. But it's also like scaffolding for the skin and scaffolding for the hair and the nails and all the things that appear as healthy appear held up and taut. And so collagen works to do all that. And again, you know, for people who are, let's say, like keto heavy diet, right? So they eat little to no carbohydrates, but they're like really into it. They're not doing dirty keto stuff, you know, where they just eat like bacon and eggs and fried whatever. They're going to the butcher and they're getting bones and they're making their own bone broth and stuff like that. They've been on this collagen train for a long time and they know all the benefits. And if you're eating that way, you're getting a lot of straight from the source collagen. If not, take a supplement. Got it.
Okay. Wow, this is a lot. This is good. I know there are more you take, but I'm going to just kind of reiterate this list. So a good B complex, vitamin D3, magnesium, collagen, maybe biotin for your hair, nails, Z and zinc, which are good for immune
Mhm.
stuff, and possibly some evening primrose. I'm curious, do you take supplements all day long?
Possibly.
Do you
Yeah.
just take them once a day?
It seems like it. So I had written this blog post once where I sort of like set it up like I had gone to meet to work with this woman and she had asked me to write down everything I took and I slid the paper over and it was just like, you know, I had like 25 things on there and she said, yeah, we're gonna cut out 20 of those. So I'm down to taking probably 7 different supplements a day, but some of them are split. So I'll take one in the morning, one in the evening, like the magnesium, for example.
Yeah.
Another really good one that just popped into my head for what it's worth is 5-HTP. It's really been helpful for me to sort of like chill out. So the idea is
What is it? What is 5?
it's a hydroxytryptophan. It's kind of like the stuff that's in turkey.
Oh yeah, the stuff that makes you sleepy on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So it functions largely like that, but without making you sleepy, it just kind of it helps you be a little more chill. So if you're like me, I can get anxious and perimenopause and sort of going into menopause now. I'm finding I'm battling levels of anxiety like I'd never had before.
No, you're not alone. It's extremely common. And let me reassure you, it gets much better when you're done with menopause. I haven't had
I'm glad to hear you say that. I just today was thinking, I really can't wait to be over. It feels like the longest wind up to releasing a ball, and I need the ball to be released.
Yeah, I've been surprised how much better I feel. I haven't had a period in a little over 2 years. I mean, I'm also on low dose hormone replacement and I take slightly fewer than you. I take D, I take magnesium, I take progesterone. I also did go back on Prozac, so I'm sure that helps. I take 20 milligrams a day of Prozac.
Yeah.
But I feel super chill and like I sleep really well and I feel really good.
So when you brought up progesterone before, I was on that maybe 3-4 years ago, and this is interesting to know just for people who are like, should I, shouldn't I? Just another get in tune with yourself. It didn't work well for me at all, and it actually made me super hostile, which is like. Which is just no fun for me, no fun for anyone. It was awful, but I would say, I am so ready to have this HRT conversation. I really want to I speak with my gynecologist and find out more about that, because I feel like there's no reason to suffer. And although I don't feel like I'm suffering, I do feel like I'm not fully plugged in.
Well, that was the thing, is I felt like I wasn't really suffering. And then I started having really bad hot flashes and my gynecologist was really pushing me for a while to go on low dose HRT. And I have to say, in my particular case, she was right. Like once I did, I feel so much better and calm and my sleep really well. Like it's been a dream for me. I won't stay on it forever, but
yeah,
now it's been really great. All right, so we're going to wrap up and we're going to do this again because you're really fun.
Oh, so are you. Thank you. I had a blast.
About food. Just for our listeners, the takeaways here, number one is don't overdo it on the supplements and make sure you're also seeing a doctor at least once a year to get your blood taken and kind of have a sense of where all your levels are.
Yep.
And number two, I think most important takeaway is you want to try and get everything you can from food. And it's probably a really good idea to have a nutritional consultant every once in a while to really look at what you're eating. I actually, for example, this morning just went and got blood taken for something called the Boston Heart Test.
Okay.
Is like a genetic analysis of cardiac risk, but apparently it comes back with a lot of nutritional recommendations. Like it looks at your blood and what you should be eating for so there are a lot of different ways to tackle these things. There's functional medicine. I mean, it's overwhelming. It really is. And as we get older and everyone's body is so different, we really need to spend the time not just grabbing things off the shelves, but really getting real help to help us navigate.
Yes, and finally, I would just add, just to piggyback off of what you said, really home in on yourself. You know, spend the hour just sort of thinking about what a day looks like for you, both physically and emotionally. It will give you an amazing amount of information and sort of help you start to see where the gaps are that need filling and how you might get that from either stress management or what you're eating or how you're spending your time, sort of where your energy is going.
Yeah.
But, you know, it'll also help. It's information, and we need to sort of really tap into what we already know of ourselves, but we sort of are getting, you know, stuck in the mud about either because hormones are getting in the way or life gets in the way. We intuitively can start to plug away at it and
Really
and
listen
figure
to our
something out.
bodies. Yeah. Yeah. And certainly water and exercise.
Water, so much water, more than you think.
Yeah.
Drink.
All right. Well, Rachel, it's great to meet you. Everyone should check out
too,
Rachel's
Nina.
blog, which is Meno Memos. So MENOMEM.
Yes, I know it's a mouthful. Thank you.
Rachel Hughes.